violence, war, and conflict seem to be something inescapable in our society. Throughout history, people have fought, from the tribes in the forests to kings in castles. Soldiers shooting in poppy fields, tanks, bombs, nuclear drops in Japan, predator drones in Iraq and Afghanistan. Gang violence, civil war. It must be human nature to be violent. Even animals fight. Nearly all conflict is a product of scarcity. Animals fight over food and territory to ensure their survival. They are not equipped with a large frontal lobe like the human species, which can solve problems of food scarcity by using technology and science. It is this ability that allowed humans to survive from the grasslands of Africa.
Our economy has chosen to rely on a finite energy resource rather than a sustainable one. This is not an economy at all and will only lead to conflict. People need a sense of security, safety, and to have their basic needs met. This can't exist in our current system that creates scarcity and problems in order to perpetuate profit for a select few. People will join into an idea of a nation, religion, or ideology in an attempt to try and gain these securities. This glorified tribalism only fuels division and conflict between groups. People will always turn on each other to acquire a scarce resource for the survival of their tribe. Instead of technology and human intelligence being used to solve these problems and help people to have their basic needs met, the public are often manipulated into war. All of the while, the monetary system allows the rich to make a profit off of death and waste valuable finite resources. The more land obtained, the more power and control businessmen have over people to create a monetary profit, turning a blind eye to the detrimental effects this has on our society, planet, and our species' survival.
In political discourse, every term has two meanings. You got to start by recognizing that. So democracy has an official meaning, which is something like, the ability of the public to take part in running their own affairs or something. But it also has a technical meaning, the one that's actually used. Something is a democracy if it's run by the business classes. If business runs it, especially business elements that are supportive of U.S. interests, then it's a democracy. Same is true of the term peace process. It has a dictionary meaning. In the dictionary meaning, a peace process is some kind of process that's trying to lead towards peace. But it also has a technical meaning. In its technical meaning, it refers to whatever the United States happens to be advocating at a particular moment.
As we and our coalition partners are doing in Afghanistan, we will bring to the Iraqi people food and medicines and supplies and freedom.
Halliburton's stock has quadrupled in value since the war began, and taxpayers are being ripped off.
Oil companies have also had immense benefit from the crisis caused by the war.
ExxonMobil just reported earnings for the third quarter, and here it is, $10.5 billion, $10.5 billion of profits in 3 months. And get this, Tony, it's the second most profitable quarter ever for an American corporation. Guess number one was? Number one was ExxonMobil in the fourth quarter of last year, where they earned $10.7 billion.
Fighting over scarce resources and business profiteering. World War I. First occupation of Iraq.
The day after Great Britain declares war on the Ottoman Empire, its first military act is to land troops near Abadan at the southern tip of Iran on November 6, 1914. Its mission is quite clear. Protect the nearby oil fields and make sure their production is not disrupted. Oil has become the new fuel for the Western world. The Royal Navy has switched from coal to oil a few years before the war begins. Great Britain and France have invested a lot of money and manpower to develop the oil fields in southern Iran. Consequently, the military minds in London believe that an advance into Iraq, right next door to Iran, will be the best way to make sure that oil continues to flow out of the Middle East and into Allied warships, trucks, and aircraft.
World War II. Roosevelt halted Japan's imports with American petroleum, froze all of Japanese assets in the US, made loans to China, supplied military aid to the British. America had declared neutrality. Japan attacks Pearl Harbor.
The United States was at peace with that nation.
Though the destruction in World War II, some companies did make large profits funding both sides, most notably Rockefeller's US Standard Oil. IG Farben were the main producers of explosives for the Germans, and also made Zyklon B. The German Air Force couldn't operate without a special additive patented by the Standard Oil Company. The bombing of London by Nazi Germany, for example, was made possible by a $20 million sale of fuel to IG Farben by the Rockefeller's Standard Oil Company.
And Iraq was all about the oil. You know, a lot of people have admitted that, and like, duh. 11 days after 9/11, when there was no clear evidence that Saddam Hussein had anything to do with 9/11, of course he didn't, that the plans were started to invade Iraq, of course. That was the objective. Get control of that oil. Because Saddam Hussein had been talking about pricing his oil in euros, taking it away from the dollar. We got in there, we restructured everything, we put in a friendly government using the US dollar, and we assured the oil companies their quote-unquote fair access and fair share of Iraqi oil.
I found it difficult to understand why millions were out of work, homeless, starving, while all the factories were sitting there. The resources were unchanged. It was then that I realized that the rules of the economic game were inherently invalid. Shortly after came World War II, where various nations took turns systematically destroying each other. I later calculated that all the destruction and wasted resources spent on that war could have easily provided for every human need on the planet.
With technology increasing at an astronomical rate, this could mean many things for modern war and violence. 3D printing machines will have the ability to print guns with ease. A suitcase bomb with nanotechnology developing rapidly could tear down buildings. Nuclear bombs could destroy entire civilizations if stresses between different countries or territorial positions continue. But with more connectivity through the internet than any other time in human history, people not only see the impacts their nation, leaders and actions have on others merely minutes later, but it also connects people together. It allows stories to unfold without the intervention of media bias, censorship and propaganda.
With peak oil already reached, Saudi Arabia offshore drilling, Shell offshore drilling in Ireland and looking to the Arctic, it is time to use all of these last barrels for manufacturing of renewable energy resources. But instead it is burnt up every day, never to return again. It is not being sold cheaply for the purpose of creating another form of energy to sustain the population. It is stockpiled and made scarce to suck the last amount of profit with no regard given to the health of the human species. Free energy will not come into existence till the last drop of oil is taken from the earth, no matter how detrimental it is to society. Out of the top 10 corporations in this world, 7 are oil and gas industries. The other 3 depend on oil as well. By the time the last amount of profit is made from oil, it will be too late to switch to another energy resource.
Man is releasing that carbon within 100 years. So by burning all fossil fuels, we're releasing carbon back into the atmosphere in a really short time. So today, the CO2 concentration is higher than any other time in the last 16 million years. And we know this from evidence from fossil stomata and at least 4 other different proxy methods.
At present, we don't have to burn fossil fuels. We don't have to use anything that would contaminate the environment. There are many sources of energy available.
Geothermal is a largely untapped energy resource most commonly used in Iceland. Yet it is not as profitable as oil, and companies want to maximise profits, not just break even. Solar, wind and tidal energy are well known to the public, and they are clean and renewable. Once in place and money is made, they will be there forever as a free source of energy. Tidal would be the least sustainable of the above because of erosion due to salt water and the need for constant maintenance. Hydrogen, fracking and nuclear are only self-serving solutions put forward by energy companies who can control these and continue the profit structure they have created. Also, these energy forms have damaging effects on the environment. Even if a transition to renewable resources is made, it may be too late. The way in which oil has been used to create this civilization leaves the question of how will we cope in replacing it.
And there we take a break, but still to come on the 9 o'clock news. There has been another accident on our roads tonight which has taken the lives of 2 men. The war on drugs, supplying more drugs around the world than ever before,